Hello everyone, and welcome to my Hardcore Beginner Guide. In this guide I'll be sharing many different survival strategies, but also leveling tips and tricks. Whenever I'm about to kill an enemy, especially in the starting zones, then I also like to drag it away from where I pulled it. This is because the moment you kill the enemy, it might also instantly respawn. When this happens, you only have a couple of seconds to also get away, or you might accidentally pull them. But when you need to run away, then you could also potentially pull even more enemies. So you always gotta pay attention to your surroundings. Whenever you have to be away from the computer for either a long or a short duration, then I would highly recommend you to log out. The location where you log out will also be important. You don't want to log out either at a spawn location or, for example, on a road where there can also be a patrolling elite. Yet another survival tip is to be able to zoom out far. This will increase your chance of also detecting enemies. I do this with a command, so I don't need to download an add-on. I'll leave it in the description so you can just copy-paste it into your game. Never attempt to kill too high-level targets. Sometimes it might work, but as you can see in this case, the target keeps resisting. And when I finally land my polymorph, then the CC duration is also super short because it's a high-level target, and these has a chance to also break the effect before it should even be over. What's way better to do is just to do a lower level quest. If you struggle to get quest at your level, then it's probably because you have to swap to another zone. It can even be worth it to do 2 different starting zones in the beginning, so you're way higher level compared to the next zone that you're supposed to go to. And to be honest, you can easily do all the green quests in next to no time and still get a lot of experience. So this is definitely worth it, also because you won't die when you do this. Whenever you're about to start an escort quest, don't do this mistake, where you don't kill all the nearby enemies, else the NPC might be running around and all of a sudden pull everything. What these NPCs will do is to, for example, break your CC effect if they feel like attacking another enemy. So in this case I polymorph one, and the NPC also breaks the sheep. Luckily I managed to recover and also control the fight, so be careful when you try to escort an NPC. Earlier I talked about not turning your back when you need to run, because you might also get dazed. But some creatures also have a backstab ability. This is super deadly as it deals a high amount of damage, so never turn your back at any cost. On the official Classic Hardcore servers, the auction house will also be available, but at the launch day there won't be many items. Therefore, you might also find it useful to go to a wand vendor and purchase one of these white wands. You can find these vendors in Stormwind City, Ironforge, Undercity and Orgrimmar. You could of course also level up enchanting and craft a lesser or a greater magic wand. Crafting these is also an amazing way to make gold at the launch day and also the launch week. But there's many different things you can do to make a ton of gold, and I would highly recommend you to check out my WoW Classic Hardcore Gold Making Guide for more of these tips. You can find it in the description below the video. An additional thing you can also do to get even more gold, or maybe even a new upgrade, would be to have an add-on that scans for rare enemies. By having an add-on like this, you will never miss them, and trust me, it's going to be worth it. There's a way higher chance that you will get a green, or maybe even a rare item when you kill these kind of creatures. And not only will you get an item you can post on the auction house, you might also get an upgrade that will improve your leveling. Talking about economy and add-ons, then I would also highly recommend you the add-on Winter Price. When you do a quest and if you can choose a reward, then you can also now see what will winter for the most. This can be quite useful if you start to lack gold and you don't really need the rewards. As a melee character, you can use different objects to also wait for your swing timer. By doing something like this, you will also prevent a lot of damage. So you only go back into the fight whenever your auto swing or ability is ready, and then you continue to kite. Doing something like this will eventually also save you a lot of time, because you don't have to bandage or, for example, eat after every single fight. But then again, it is kind of min-maxing, but just a useful trick, especially if you're fighting a more difficult target. Talking about kiting and being a melee DPS, I would highly recommend you to also have a macro where you quickly can swap in between your one-hand weapon and shield and your two-hand weapon. So whenever you get to low health and you just want to get away, then it's better to have a one-hand weapon and a shield equipped. This allows you to block and also increase your armor, so you take even less damage. To quickly swap, you just make a new macro. In the first line it will say /equip, and then you put in the name of your one-hand weapon. and in the second line, the name of your shield. The next trick you will not be able to use at the launch. This requires a level 40 mage. But at level 40, the mage can create a portal, and this portal can be used in combat. So if you're about to attempt a difficult boss, for example in a dungeon or a raid, and everything goes wrong, then you can always leave through the portal. A few days after the launch, you might also be able to find many different cheap potions on the auction house, because there's going to be many people leveling up alchemy. So what you could do is to purchase these cheap potions, as they will also benefit your leveling, especially if you can get a swiftness potion, so you can run away if you make a mistake. In some cases, it can be difficult to kill one specific target if there's a lot of other nearby creatures, but there's an easy way to fix this. If you start with an AoE ability, then these creatures will not be linked together. This allows you to cast a fire blast and kite away, and at some point all the other enemies will start to evade. This trick can be so useful when you need to kill one specific enemy, but remember, it only works when you do an AoE ability. Because when there's many monsters and you pull one of them with a single target spell, then they will also be linked together. So whenever you now attack one of them, then the reset, or well, the evade time will also reset for all of them. So you will either have to be able to kite around and kill the enemy at the same time and then reset the fight, or just reset the fight immediately. As a shaman, your totem can also be your worst nightmare, especially when you forget about them inside a cave or a dungeon and a patrol accidentally get pulled. This is also the same case with your searing totem that will be aggressive to nearby enemies. So what I usually do when a searing totem is about to shoot is just to spawn another one. As you're about to go into dead mines, probably also your first dungeon as an alliance player, then there's a trick you can use to also quickly get to the dungeon entrance. This trick will save you time and maybe even your life. The reason for this is because when there's a lot of players at the same location, then it can also cause monsters to hyperspawn. So as you're running to the entrance, you might accidentally all of a sudden also get a lot of elites pulled to your group. If this happens, then it could also cause your group to end up dying. So what will be better is to find this object, jump on top of it, and as you're at the top, you press log out and jump at the same time. This will cause you to be lifted a bit over the ground, and when you log out and log back in, then you'll now also be teleported to the entrance of the dungeon. This trick can be used at many different locations in the open world, also as you're running to Wailing Caverns. You can find a mushroom, jump on top of it, log out and jump at the same time, and yeah, when you do this trick, you will be teleported to the dungeon entrance. One mechanic that probably kills the most hardcore players is Dazed. This is where you turn your back against the targets you're fighting, and when you do this to, for example, run away, then you might also get dazed. When you're dazed, your movement speed is also slowed by 50% for 4 seconds, and this can continue to be applied. An easy way to prevent daze is just to face the targets, either by backpedaling or even better by strafing. So where you're moving fast to the left and to the right, and you're still facing the targets. I would highly recommend you to practice this as you're leveling up. So whenever you need to make an emergency exit, then you're also familiar with what to do. And of course, also level up first aid so you can heal yourself in combat. And even as a healer, you should also learn first aid in case you're out of mana. The next one is for those of you that also like to be a daredevil. So by going into caves where you could also die quite quickly. If you go into these, make sure to also adjust your graphics. For example, your contrast, brightness, or gamma. When you adjust these, you might also be able to see a lot more, and this can be extremely useful if there isn't much lighting. Talking about graphics, then it's not always best to have the best possible graphics. For example, having more grass and other things that might prevent you from seeing things. By lowering the environment detail and ground clouder, you won't see as much grass. And even some of the objects at far distance will not be displayed. But you can still see all the different creatures. So useful, especially at a packed area with many different trees. Another big mistake is not to subscribe to the channel, because soon I'll publish a lot more hardcore guides. Jokes aside, as a hunter, you gotta be aware that if your feign death also runs out, then you will also end up dying. So when you use the spell, you don't want to go AFK for 6 minutes. You gotta make sure you cancel it in time. Unless you would of course like to start a new fresh journey as a level 1 character. But yeah, this is also what I had for you today. For more hardcore tips and tricks, leveling guides and other things, make sure to check out the channel. Peace!